Friday, July 19th, 2024, a day that will go down in tech history as one of the worst tech crashes of all times. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Code with GD. Today we are diving into one of the biggest tech crashes of the year. Buckle up because this story has everything from blue screens to cancelled flights. CrowdStrike, the security giant, released an update for their Falcon software and it caused absolute chaos. Thousands of computers started showing the dreaded blue screen of death. Offices came to a standstill, stock markets in some countries shut down, and airports had to cancel their flights. And in some cases, boarding pass was being written by hand, and even hospital systems went offline. You could not even order your favorite Starbucks coffee. Some countries' emergency services like 911 calls were disrupted because the computers weren't working. It was one of the largest tech crashes ever, and amidst all the chaos, there were jokes about employees enjoying unexpected early Friday leaves. In this video, I will break down what CrowdStrike is and how it operates, the possible reasons behind this massive crash, and how so many computers were affected simultaneously. So, coming to the first question, what does CrowdStrike do? They have a product called Falcon, designed to protect computers from threats. To do its job efficiently, Falcon operates at the lowest level of the OS, known as the kernel mode. Now here's where things went wrong. On that fateful Friday, CrowdStrike released an update that resulted in a permanent boot loop in Windows system, a fatal error causing the system to reboot endlessly. A software in a computer can be run in either of two modes, kernel mode and user mode. First, let's talk about kernel mode. This is where the OS core functions operate with unrestricted access to system resources. It can access both kernel and user memory areas. And user mode is the place where applications run. They have limited access to resources. This limit is controlled by the kernel. If the code running in user mode fails, only that particular application crashes. But if the code in kernel mode fails, the whole OS crashes, leading to the infamous blue screen of death. The blue screen of death, or BSOD, is not limited only to Windows. Linux has a black screen, Mac OS has a pink screen. Now, when a kernel crash happens, rebooting usually solves the issue, but not this time. The Falcon update caused a boot loop that standard reboots could not fix. The kernel runs code related to thread scheduler, heap manager, OS and device drivers. And CrowdStrike's Falcon operates as a device driver in kernel mode. It is installed as a boot start driver, meaning it loads before most of the other system processes. This level of access is usually safe due to a stringent quality checks and certification from Microsoft. However, updating the code in the kernel mode requires new certification, which takes time and could leave systems vulnerable to new threats or zero-day threats. The process to get new certification for the updated code will take some time. This would mean companies like CrowdStrike need to move very fast to protect computers from zero-day vulnerabilities. Now, the way CrowdStrike works is it has a configuration file and definition files from which it reads the definitions of malwares. Now imagine if these configuration files are not only configuration files, but they have pieces of code written that the software can actually run. This would mean that companies could actually run their updated code in the kernel without getting any quality assurance from companies like Microsoft. And all it can take is a null pointer exception to bring the whole system down. While we don't have an official statement from CrowdStrike yet, analysis of the log suggests that the problem stemmed from poor parameter validation in the dynamic configuration files. This lack of validation allowed bad data to cause the system-wide crashes. In an ideal case, the code should be written such that these poor parameter validations are handled inside the code itself rather than throwing exception. So actually, any exception that is thrown by a code in kernel mode brings the whole system down and shows the blue screen of death. If the code in kernel mode crashes, it is actually better to bring the whole system down rather than allowing the system to go on, because it is the kernel layer that supports the application layer. Now if any code in kernel mode shows an error, chances are that the application layer also won't work correctly and things would get even more messy. And usually when system goes down, usually a reboot solves the problem. But since CrowdStrike's Falcon operates as a device driver in kernel mode and it is installed as a bootstart driver, it means that it has to load at the time of boot. So that is what caused the boot loop issue. To fix this issue, you will need physical access to your computer. Here's one of the ways to do it. First you need to boot your system in safe mode. Your system will start with limited functionalities. Booting in safe mode means that only the basic drivers required to boot will be active. Then you need to navigate to the folder named system32/drivers in your C drive, and you need to look for files with the name containing C double hyphen then 000000291. Delete those files and then reboot your system. Your system should start normally. If this does not help, there are other ways as well. I will attach the link in the description below. And that's it for today's video. A mix of poor coding practices and the need for speed led to one of the biggest tech crashes in recent history. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tech videos. Thank you. Till then, happy coding. Bye bye.